Your knowledge is enough. Your distance is enough. That's the punishment they never saw coming. To be dismissed by someone they once thought they controlled. Now, they sit in the ruins, trying to piece together a timeline of their own downfall. And every version leads back to you watching quietly, waiting for them to reveal themselves. That's the lesson, isn't it? People think power comes from confrontation. But sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is leave them to themselves. Let them unravel in their own web. You don't have to scream, don't have to beg, don't even have to explain. Just walk away with everything you know and let the silence devour them. Because your absence is not empty, it's saturated with truth. And truth, when it lands too late, becomes a scar. Not a wound. Wounds heal. Scars stay. They will carry your awareness forever, etched into the corners of their pride. And every time they look in the mirror, they'll see your eyes, behind theirs, quiet and knowing. They'll search for you in others now, desperate to reclaim the gaze that once saw them and didn't flinch. But they won't find it. Because the version of you that watched them fall apart while smiling gently doesn't come back. You're not bitter. You're not vengeful. You're simply gone. You took your depth with you, your patience, your insight, and now they stand in a world that feels colder, flatter, emptier. That's the cost of deception met with dignity. It robs them of the fantasy, leaves them drowning in reality. And you walk on, lighter, clearer, unburdened, because you knew all along, and you let them prove everything they thought they were hiding, on their own, without a single word from your lips. And that is where the power lives. Now they scroll through your silence like it's a crime scene. Every past message becomes evidence. Every kind response now echoes with irony. They replay it all, thinking maybe they can find the exact moment you saw through them. Maybe if they analyze your tone in that final conversation. Maybe if they recall the look in your eye when they lied for the third time. Maybe, just maybe, they can pinpoint when your patience turned into knowing. But they can't, because your awareness didn't arrive all at once. It was already there, sleeping like a dragon behind your ribcage. And once it woke, it didn't roar. It simply watched them burn their own credibility down to ash while they smiled, believing you were still under the spell. But you were already writing the ending. They don't ask for forgiveness now. They ask for relevance. They try to re-enter your atmosphere not to apologize, but to test the air, to see if it's still warm enough for them to exist in. But the climate has changed. You don't hold grudges, you hold standards, and they no longer meet them. That's what breaks them now. Not your rage, but your refusal to re-engage. They feel small, not because you diminished them, but because you stopped inflating their illusion. You stopped handing them mirrors that made them look taller. You stopped playing the part of the patient savior. And when they realized you were never blind, that you had simply chosen to be merciful until they made that mercy offensive, they felt the floor fall out from under them. They crafted an entire identity around fooling you. That's what stings most now. Their confidence was never internal. It fed on your disbelief. They performed because they believed you'd never catch the act. And now, they're not just ashamed, they're hollow. Because the mask they wore became their self-worth. And now that it's discarded, they have nothing left to hide behind. And you, the one they thought was naive, are now the keeper of their truth. That quiet power you carry now, it suffocates them. Not because you're vengeful, but because your memory is unshakable. You carry their truth like a sealed file, never weaponized, but never forgotten. Their new life, however polished, however rebranded, still lives in the shadow of your understanding. Because they can't fake authenticity once they've been seen. Not fully, not irrevocably. Every new connection is haunted by the memory of someone who didn't need to be told to see. Someone who simply saw. You've become the standard they'll never meet again. Not because you were perfect, but because you were aware. And awareness, true, piercing, undistorted awareness, is a weight they now feel in every interaction. You're the ghost that reminds them what it feels like to be observed with clarity and still offered compassion until they made themselves unworthy of it. And you've grown past needing validation for your vision. You don't need to shout what you saw. You don't need to prove how early you understood. Because your power was never in the exposure. It was in the restraint. You let them walk into their own reflection. You let them laugh in the face of the fire. And now, the laughter is gone. The fire remains. They thought they were clever. Thought they were orchestrating a performance so intricate, you'd never see through it. Every gesture, every word, every calculated silence was rehearsed with the confidence of someone who believed themselves untouchable. You watched them spin their lies like silk, as if deception were an art form they had mastered. And for a while, you played along, not because you believed them, but because you wanted to study them in their natural state. There's a certain poetic cruelty in letting someone believe they're fooling you while they dig the grave of their own credibility. You watch them lie with ease, watch them perform affection while calculating your silence. You gave them enough rope to dance. And now, the music stopped, and they're still holding the rope, wondering why it feels like a noose. That's the twist they never saw coming. You knew. Every game, every manipulation, every redirection of blame, you had it mapped. Not because you were paranoid, but because your intuition has claws. You've danced with darkness before. You've held hands with betrayal and learned its patterns like a rhythm. So when they thought they were being subtle, you were already writing the epilogue. But instead of exposing them outright, you let it breathe. You let it ferment. Because there's something more satisfying than confrontation. Revelation. The kind that arrives in silence, in absence, in the weight of your calm exit. They didn't expect that. They expected screaming, accusation, chaos. Instead, you left them with nothing but their own reflection. And it's that reflection that now mocks them harder than you ever could. Now they're pacing, replaying conversations, wondering how much you saw, wondering how long you've known. It's not the guilt that kills them. It's the realization that their script never fooled you. That the entire performance was wasted on an audience who saw the wires, the traps, the agenda. Their pride is collapsing under the weight of their own performance. They thought they were ahead, that they were pulling strings, navigating the shadows. But you had the blueprint. You read between their lines before they ever opened their mouth. And the most painful part? You never stopped them. You let them believe they were winning until it was far too late for them to recover their dignity. They never thought you'd be capable of playing the long game. That's the mistake manipulators make. They assume silence means submission. They equate compassion with ignorance. But you weren't blind. You were strategic. You were letting them unravel at their own pace, taking notes while they handed you every piece of evidence you'd ever need. They call it betrayal when you finally step away. But it's not betrayal. It's liberation. You gave them more chances than they deserved, more understanding than they earned, and they used every ounce of your grace to dig deeper into their games. Now, they sit in the silence, burning with questions they'll never get answers to. And that's what haunts them. Not your departure, but your awareness. Because now, every memory of you is tainted by truth. Every time you smiled, they wonder if you were smiling at them or through them. Every time you listened patiently, they ask themselves what you were storing away. You've become their mirror, unforgiving, unblinking, and they hate it because your silence holds power now. Not the kind that screams revenge, but the kind that rewrites every moment they thought they controlled. That's the true consequence. Living with the realization that you weren't a fool. You were just too kind to interrupt their illusion too soon. But now that it's shattered, they stand exposed. Not just to you, but to themselves. And what they see is something they can't explain away. They thought they were the magician. Now they look like the clown. Because deception only works when the other person is invested in the illusion. But you weren't. You were studying, observing, waiting, not for the perfect moment to strike, but for the moment when leaving would be irreversible. Now, they feel that permanence like ice. Because they can't undo the performance. They can't scrub the record of all the times they smirked while lying. They can't erase your memory of their contradictions. And the worst part? You didn't expose them to others. You let them sit in the shame. Because no public exposure could compete with the torment of knowing they lost your respect silently, irrevocably, without the closure they expected to manipulate. They asked themselves why you didn't confront them, why you didn't fight back. But confrontation would have given them a stage, a scene, a spectacle to distort. That's what they wanted, to make you look unstable, emotional, reactive. But you stayed calm, you stayed distant, and that unnerves them more than any retaliation ever could. Because your calm means certainty. It means you knew, and it means you don't need to defend your departure